Hi, I'm Sam. I'm a professional artist and I love to help other artists and creatives grow in skills and confidence, but also to earn some serious money in their art business doing what they love every day. In this video, I'm going to be answering a problem that I get asked a lot, and that's how to get white fur to show up over the top of dark in things like whiskers and little flyaway hairs. So I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to do that, and you can apply that to your own work straight away. Let's get into the video. Okay, so the first thing to consider, now this might sound obvious, but the colour of your paper is obviously going to make a big difference. So just thinking about the white paper, it's not always white. You might find that even if you look at your pad that you're using all of the time and then you put it, so this one I use quite regularly, Daler Rowney Smooth Heavyweight, if I put it next to something that actually I know for a fact is a lot whiter, look at the difference in that. So with some of the techniques that I'm going to be showing, if you're going to be scraping back to the paper, just know that that paper is not actually pure white. So there is going to be a limit to the colour that you're going to be able to get, which is why it's important that you've got these other things under your sleeve in case of really trying to make it a lot brighter than it is on the paper. So you could consider using different colour papers like black, you could use a darker colour paper, and then the white's going to show up beautifully with your lovely white pencils. I would recommend Caran d'Ache Luminance White, or I think my favourite, and it's got a little bit of a hidden gem because it's a watercolour pencil, it's Museum Aquarelle. Their white is amazing, and actually if you want it to make it into more of a watercolour, you can lick the end. Probably shouldn't say that, or maybe dip it in with some water if that's what you want to do, but then you'll get a lovely paste and you'll get some fab whiskers with that. Or something like Pastel Matte, which is amazing for coloured pencils. A lot of people think it's just for pastels. It's not, and it comes in lots of different colours. I've actually used most of the colours in here, so all I've got left is the yellow. But you can use the coloured paper as a contrast. So recently I did this barn owl on dark grey Pastel Matte, and the whites just showed up beautifully on it, so it's lovely to have that contrast. Or you could use a white paper and have that beautiful subtle change between the white of the animal and the white of the paper. You can get Fabriano Artistico, that kind of really brilliant white. They've made it the whitest white, so that is probably the best paper that you're going to get for the colour underneath, but you can use your pencils on top, and I'm going to show you some other tips that you can use as well to make the white really show up. The next tip I would say is that you can use something called a slice tool. Now this is the pen cutter, it's amazing. There is a way to use it, and I'll demonstrate that now. I'm going to be using rubbish computer paper, so I want to demonstrate that this will work on anything. So I'm going to go in, first of all, with a layer of just black polychromos. Giving it a twirl just to make sure that you get that sweet point of being able to, when I apply pencil and you're trying to get an even layer, I usually do it in big ovals. I just want to show you. Kind of shows up. Then I'm going to be using the polychromos white, so anything that is oil based will work similarly to this. So you've got something to scrape back to. So this is your very first layer. You might apply lots of different colours in between. I imagine you will. You won't just use 2 layers, and that actually feels nicer. You've got something to work with. So adding a few layers of the polychromos black, and then you'll be able to see that it will show up a little bit more. So you'll be able to see little fine hairs. Now I'm going to go in with the Luminance. Now this is a wax-based pencil. So what you'll find is any pencil with a waxier consistency, like Prismacolors or obviously the Luminance, few layers of the polychromo on top. Of course you're going to be putting lots of different colours here as well, but what you've got is something to scrape back to, and here you'll see that it shows up the best. And the slice tool actually works brilliantly on something called drafting film. So this is Polydraw. There are lots of different alternatives. Duralar, which is actually a little bit thicker. This is a really good starter one, I would recommend, because it costs a lot of money to try different materials, and actually this is quite affordable, and it's a pretty good example of what you're going to get. So this is the 050 double matte polydraw 15 leaves A4, and the slice tool works brilliantly, and I'll show a little demonstration of that. The next tool I use for things like whiskers or really fine hairs that I know are going to be a lot lighter, like in a cat's ear for example, or if you get a black cat with a white nose and you get the little white hairs going into the black, always something that you look at and think, how am I going to do that? This is the tool to use. So these are embossing tools, and these ones come in different sizes. They've got different sizes on each end. And what I would say is for whiskers, it's important that you get the thickness right, because if you use something that's too thin, it's not really going to show up. What this does is it indents the paper, a little bit like you were when you were a kid and you would kind of use a coin to indent the paper and then rub over the top. And what it does is that when you put the pencil down, it's difficult to get that pencil into the groove, and therefore it leaves a lovely clean line. You can also use something like this little mini eraser, which is another way of getting a white hair, to clean up the line and make it a little bit thicker. But it's a really good way to guarantee that the light hairs are going to show up over the top of dark, and you don't need to draw around every single hair, which can be very difficult, and you can only go as fine as the pointiest nib of your pencil. So I would definitely recommend these embossing tools. The next thing you can do is actually paint them in afterwards. Now there is something called brush and pencil, and what this does is it's a powder and a clear liquid, a bit like a nail varnish, and you mix them together and you can make it as thick or as fine as you want. Obviously the thicker it is, the more powder you use, the more opaque it's going to be, so the whiter it's going to be. The more liquid you put in, it's going to be more transparent, so just bear that in mind. Now this is designed specifically for coloured pencils, so you know that when it dries it's not going to crack. These other methods that I use, like this Posca pen, and you can use gouache or a gel pen, just bear in mind that something like a gel pen is not archival. It could possibly crack, and it might affect, especially if you're selling your work. The other thing that you can use is this lovely Tombow Mono eraser, really tiny, don't know if you can see, really fine eraser, and you can actually go in and pull up the details. This works much better on things like graphite, especially if you've used lovely light layers. It shows up brilliantly. But before I knew anything about the slice tool, which has been a bit of a game changer when it comes to flyaway hairs, this is what I used to use all the time. You can get different thicknesses. You can get like a square version as well, which is good for getting really fine lines, but this is beautiful for getting, you know, details in and for cleaning things up, tidying things up, and you can even use it for whiskers as well. So those are the things that I would use, and I have used in the past. I've tried them all out, I've used them countless times, but if I was going to pick a method that I would use now, I would probably combine embossing with the slice tool, but make sure you have that layer down to begin with, otherwise it really won't work at all. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope these tips helped you and you can start applying them to your own work and seeing results that really make a difference to the finished piece. If you did like this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you would like to see real-time tutorials, then I do have an online membership, The Joy of Drawing. Click on the link, I'll put it in the description box if you would like to find out more. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.